I got 16 Twitch streamers who are brand new at chess to play in this multi-week chess tournament. In this recap, we will go over all games played in week 3 of the event, the semifinals, so we can see who qualified for the finals of this chess event. By the way, if you want to catch the rest of these games live, check out my channel on twitch.tv. Link will be in the bio below. Let's get into the recap. So for the first game of the semifinals, we're going to start with the games between Pox and Jack Penguin. Just to be clear here, Pox is rated significantly lower than Jack Penguin and is clearly the underdog, but Pox is going to try to play to his strengths in this match and see how he can try to capitalize on any of Jack's weaknesses. I had training sessions with both these players. In this game, Pox is playing white and Jack Penguin is playing black. Pox is playing the London system in this opening and honestly is doing a pretty good job, even being rated a little bit lower than Jack, actually getting a pretty good position from the opening. Jack is also playing pretty solid as well with a nice central pawn presence, c5, to try to undermine the pawn structure, but Pox is not going to take any of the bait there. A3 kicking out the bishop. Bishop trades here for the queen, and Pox is +1. Pox is doing all right so far. Everything is going great. Queen of b6 attacking the weak pawn in this position, but striking in the center with c4, which launches an attack and also allows the queen to defend. Pox playing really well here, and Jack playing really well too. No blunders made so far. Both players playing some pretty clean chess. Rook e8, and now we're going to have a little bit of a trade in the center. Queen is going to slide in to b3, but this is a bit of a step in the wrong direction for Jack Penguin, as now Pox is actually going to start playing a couple top engine moves here. Pox is just going to trade. Pox is just going to allow Jack to take the bishop because the queen is going to get in. The queen is going to get in, and this is a crushing position for white. It's -7 here. And Jack just takes a pawn. Jack forgets that he just lost a knight and forgot to take the bishop back with the pawn and just gives it up. And now Pox is just up a full piece. Pox has the option to play something like queen g5 or sacking the bishop on h7, and it's just completely crushing. And this is totally fine too. Pox brings the bishop back. Pox brings the rook over, getting a couple tempos on the queen. It's completely winning for white. It's +10. But Pox plays knight g5, which is a little bit unoptimal. You want to bring the queen in ideally, but this is still an attack because after bishop takes here, Pox is getting in. Pox is getting into the position, bishop back here. But Pox is maybe doing this the wrong way. He's trying to get in, but now the king might be able to go back over, or the rook can take, and now you win 2 pieces, and it's still winning for white, but Pox's attack has kind of died out here. But it's still winning for Pox. It's still winning for Pox because Pox is still up in exchange, and he's going to take advantage of these 2 rooks. He's going to double up on the open C file, try to take full control of that file. All right, some pieces are going to shuffle around. Jack is going to push his pawns a little more. It's still an advantage for Pox. It's +3, but the advantage is going down a little bit, and now Jack Penguin wins the rook back. He wins back the exchange. The knight is captured in the center. It is a completely even game. Bishop takes the pawn here, and now rook f8 trying to take control of that open file. It's still totally good for white if bishop to e3, guarding the pawn in the center, holding down the pawn on f2. But pawn g3, pawn goes up. These pawns are moving, and this is a passed pawn. The d4 pawn is looking very scary for Pox here. Pawn is coming through here. Bishop on c6, covering the pawn on e4. And we have a bit of an exchange, and oh my. Jack hangs his bishop. Jack hangs his bishop, but Pox doesn't see it and plays h4, but now there's e3, and bishop just takes, and this is still hanging, and this is hanging. But just move the bishop out of the way, cover your passed pawn, and you win that pawn back. This is still good for white. This is still good for white. Bishop c5, rook f7. This is still very good for white if you have rook e1 trying to get in here. Bishop slides back, queen over. The pieces shuffle around, but now there's this issue. Black can play moves such as like bishop a8 here is just great for black. You could put the queen in front and you can try to go for a checkmate. So the pieces are shuffling around again. No one is trading any pieces. Rook comes up to f3, and now black is in a really, really good position. The rook is infiltrating. The bishop covers this diagonal. There's a passed pawn that's protected. This is very, very scary for white. And in a couple moves, Jack is just setting up a mate. Jack is just setting up checkmate here after rook c8. King slides over. Rook back to c5, queen slides over, queen is getting in, and Jack Penguin gets checkmate on move 48. We go to game 2. Jack, of course, being the favorite for this series. Jack is now playing on white in this game. Pox is playing on black. Pox and I reviewed the Caro Con together, which is what he chose to play for this game. Okay, so d3 defending. We have bishop pinning the knight. A little bit of a trade here, kicking the bishop out. This position's okay. Nothing terrible so far. Pretty much 0-0-0. Queen comes out. Oh, man. Jack Penguin castles long here and sacrifices the a2 pawn. Pox doesn't quite take it, but now he does. Now Pox comes in, takes on a2, and this is not losing for white, but it's definitely scary. This is a problem. Now, pawn's going to take in the center. I think Pox is a little bit scared to take here, even though it's totally fine to just recapture in the center. Decides to push. Now the pawn gets in, and Black's just going to be able to win this pawn pretty easily. The pawn just kind of came in, and is just going to be able to be won. But Jack, knight takes on c5. He's just sacrificing the knight. That's just a free knight. You can literally just take this. But Pox plays queen a1 check, which is also totally fine because you can still take the knight. It's a free knight here. And you have to be super careful because if you don't take it, this is just mate on b7. But instead, Pox, by the way here, -3.5 takes on b2, which is still totally fine because you are covering mate. But the game is so close here. The game is so close, and Jack immediately throws it away with rook a1, targeting this pawn. Rook a1 completely throws away the advantage. It's -7 if you can find knight takes knight and just winning a free piece. Just winning a free piece and your attack is too strong. You will win this piece, you will win this piece in one of these ways. Your king is completely safe. It doesn't matter if they take your pawn over here. But Pox plays queen takes a1. And it's just mate. 2-0 Jack Penguin, game number 3. Pox is playing with the white pieces. Jack is playing with the black pieces. And what is going on here? What is happening this opening? In this opening, the first 8 moves are both players pushing all their pawns to the 4th and 5th rank. I have never seen anything like this. We later found out the 2 players planned this before playing this game, and now this is going to devolve into absolute chaos. What is this? Look at this opening. Takes. We just have a complete mess of pawns in the center. Both players have a slew of passed pawns. Black has 4 passed pawns. White has 5 passed pawns. This position's obviously better for white because white went first and just has more passers. The queens are traded immediately, but the bishops will come out, try to get their stances, and Pox is white. Pox is just winning. Again, Pox has more passed pawns. His pieces are nicely placed. The bishop helps cover the pawns, and he's looking pretty good. And in this position, Pox is trying to perhaps target one of Black's pawns and capture it. Unfortunately, Pox goes about this the wrong way. And after taking with the bishop, it's actually pinned to Pox's rook. Not only that, Jack could even just take the bishop. Jack can just make this exchange because of c2. And you're just making a queen as Black. You're literally just making a queen. Alternatively, you could play c2 now, and it still works. So bishop a5 is a blunder, but Jack doesn't take advantage of it right away. You could even win white's pawn over here. It just plays e3. All right, whatever. Knight comes out. Pox doesn't see that he's in trouble. c2 now from Jack Penguin. Bishop takes the pawn, but now, oh no, this is being blundered. This is being blundered. You can take here. There's so much pressure looming on every piece in Pox's position, and it just falls apart. It just falls apart. Pox castles, but it's a bit too late. You will take the knight, then you will take the rook, and then the pawn is going to get in, and you're going to make a queen as Black here. You're 100% going to get a queen. White's king is going to be hunted, and it will be ending with a checkmate. Knight to f5, and the game is simply over. Now, we had a little pep talk with Pox before game 4 to hype him up a little bit. Pox has had winning positions in every single one of these games, but it's 3-0 to Jack Penguin, and in this series, we're playing best of 7, so you need 4 points to win. Not only that, but players are playing with a bit of a higher time control. Instead of 10-minute games, it's 10 plus 5-second increment, so the players aren't losing to time as much. So these games are going a little bit longer, and we're getting a bit higher quality chess than we were previously. So let's see what Pox can do in game 3 on Black. We have an attempt at a caro con, although Pox not playing the most accurate second move in this position, gets hit with an early e5, knight to the center. It's move 6, and Jack's just up a pawn here in the opening. Another move by Pox here with the f pawn, which I don't really like too much, giving Jack a little bit more time to develop here. All right, Pox starting to activate his pieces, castling, pawn to d6. Things are getting a little sus. Bishop takes pawn, so Pox is actually able to win his pawn back, but this is a bit scary here, right? Pox is castled on the king side, and Jack is castled on the queen side, so Jack is going to start playing very aggressively against Pox here, and Jack might eventually have moves like pawn g4, bringing the bishops out to get very active, and it's going to be kind of scary. Pox still has a lot of pieces he needs to develop. Jack's pieces can develop very quickly here and start an attack right away. And that's kind of what we're going to see. H6 is not really what you want to be doing as black. You want to be getting these other pieces into the game, and now Jack's just going to start getting his pieces into the game. Bishop slide back, also not what you want to be doing, and Pox doesn't even take the bishop back. He just sacrifices a bishop and then sacrifices a pawn and then sacrifices another pawn, and Jack is just dominating. This is going to be so hard for Pox to recover from. You can't even take anymore because your queen is hanging. So pawn up, and then Jack is just getting all his pieces into the game. These bishops are just killers along these diagonal. The rook and the queen line up here as well. We have pawn up and queen g6 check. Pawn to e6, top engine move from Jack Penguin, hitting the knight and also opening up this bishop. Queen to e7, best move here for white would have been queen takes h6 because the pawn is pinned behind the bishop and it's a faster checkmate. But we have just bringing the knight into the game, and queen will win a pawn. Jack is sacrificing a bishop here, winning the knight back. Bishop slides to b7, and just the whole army, Jack Penguin's entire force of pieces is just infiltrating into this position. Everything is just coming to town here to hang out. Everything's coming into party. Pawn to g6, but that's not what you want to be doing. After knight takes, it is going to be mate in just one move. Knight takes on e7, and Jack Penguin is moving on to the finals of our tournament. Congratulations to Jack. Condolences to Pox. It was a clean sweep, but it was a good series of games. Let's take a look at the other set of games between K-Smack and Joe Roll, because wow, these games were something. Now, the match between K-Smack and Joe Roll was very close. The numbers next to their names don't accurately represent their rating. K-Smack is definitely higher than 574. So these games are going to be pretty close, and we're about to see that in just a second. K-Smack starting with the Queen's Gambit, an opening that we didn't really prepare too much for him, but he's using as a bit more of a surprise against Joe Roll. Takes. We have a completely normal position, but okay, e4. K-Smack sacrificing a pawn in the center, but this is K-Smack's playstyle. K-Smack likes to sacrifice material, likes to play very aggressively. This is very K-Smack-esque here. I love this move, queen a5 from Joe Roll, pinning the knight to the king. This is pretty good. At any time, of course, you can take this knight and win a pawn here in the center, which is not so bad. We have castles, and now we will see exactly that, winning the pawn in the center. And now Joe Roll's 2 pawns up. Joe Roll just 2 pawns up, 2 clean pawns in this position. Engine says 0-0-0 because white has good activity, probably with these open files and everything. But Joe just has 2 extra pawns. So queen b3, no trade quite yet, but now there's a trade. Bishops will trade as well. Again, Joe Roll up 2 pawns, and now because we traded the queens and the bishops, it is -3. Joe Roll in a commanding position, going to castle, get his pieces into the game. We're going to see another trade here. Bishop against knight, but still +2 pawns. We have pawn out to the center. Pieces are going to shuffle around a little bit, and this is the position we have after 21 moves. Things are starting to get a little bit interesting over here. The rooks have kind of gotten to better squares. The knight here is pinned to this rook. This pawn is coming. This pawn is constantly being threatened. This pawn's constantly being threatened in the center. There's a lot of pressure everywhere, and we're now seeing a capture. The pawns are getting a little weakened here, so white was willing to sack a pawn to kind of ruin the structure a little bit. But now the b pawn's coming in, and now Joe Roll plays rook c7, sacrificing the knight. Well, blundering the knight. I mean, he didn't sacrifice, he just blundered the knight. But Smack doesn't see it, instead playing rook c5. Now the knight can totally just escape, but it doesn't. It's still hanging. Rook e1. Smack refusing to take the knight in the center, just a free knight. He can even take this pawn too. He just decides not to. And now the knight comes out of the way. Now we do see taking the pawn, and rook c1 is a tricky move. You cannot take the rook because then it is mate on the next move. So your only options are something such as rook over, king over, bishop back. So here, K-Smack just takes a deep breath, plays king f1. Both players getting low on time here. Joe Roll, again, 1 minute 38 seconds. K-Smack, 2 minutes 41 seconds. Players are trying to play pretty quick here. We have the pawn coming down to d3. Okay, have to be very careful. K-Smack coming in with bishop b3, setting up something absolutely devious along this diagonal with maybe a discovery on the king. And Joe Rall here is not concerned. Joe Rall, just with 54 seconds on the clock, plays pawn d2, trying to get in here, trying to make a queen, but K-Smack with the absolute hammer, rook d8, and it is double check and mate on the black king. It is game over. K-Smack wins the first game in the series. My goodness. Let's go to game 2. Game 2, K-Smack is on black, Joe Rall is on white. We are going to see an attempt at a Vienna opening from Joe Rall. Joe told me ahead of this game that he prepared the Vienna. However, K-Smack clearly did not play in to the Vienna. In fact, a lot of players in this event did not play e4, e5. They were mixing up with things like the caro con and other types of openings. So we have f3 here from Joe Rall. No pieces traded yet, even though there's a lot of tension with the pawns in the center. Tactics are flying all over the place. Players just refusing to trade their pawns in the center. Long castles by Joe Rall, potentially trying to instigate maybe at some point on the king side with some aggression. K-Smack castling on the king side. This game is definitely going to get spicy regardless of what happens. We have queen slides over, knight to h3, pawn takes in the center, knight takes in the center, and now Smack plays bishop e6, hanging a devastating tactic. You would think here that the tactic is pawn takes pawn, with a discovery on the queen and also hitting the knight. But black has this move knight takes knight, which counterattacks white's queen, so both the queens are hanging. So instead, the idea is actually you take the knight first, and after capturing back, there is now pawn d5, and now you attack both the queen and the bishop at the same time, and you are winning a piece. However, this is pretty hard to see at this level, so instead, Joe Rall is just going to play queen h4, but K-Smack plays queen a6 and just hangs the queen. Bishop takes on a6. And the crazy thing is that's not even the best move. The best move is to just take here because it's just mate in 6. It's just going to be mate in 6 in a few moves. But like any human, Joe Rall takes the queen, and Joe Rall is just up queen for bishop. Joe Rall dominating. After losing the first game, Joe Rall is back for blood, lining up the rooks, lining up everything for the attack. K-Smack even sacking another bishop for what appears like no reason, just sacking another piece. Joe decides not even to take the piece. Okay, pieces are flying off the board left and right here. We're seeing a fork in the middle from K-Smack, but then Joe Rall coming in with queen h7 and just winning the game. It is checkmate. It's 1 point Joe, 1 point K-Smack. This set isn't going to be a shutout. Oh my God, this is awesome. Wow, these games are close. Let's go to game 3. K-Smack is on white. Joe Rall is on black. We have c4 in English opening. Interestingly enough, c4, d4. We have takes on e5. Joe Rall deciding not to take back. Okay, but this move is still totally fine. And then we have this very bizarre opening where both of white's pawns can be taken, but Joe Rall just pushes the knight out, and now bishop g5 from Smack. Smack playing very aggressively here. All this, like, what is happening? What is this opening? I don't know what's going on here. Blocking with the pawn. Now you can simply take the pawn. I mean, you could just take there, and it's good for white. But bishop back, queen e7, pawn e4. What is this structure? Everything is just, dude, I don't even know. Pawn takes, kicking the bishop out. Bishop kicks the queen out now. Queen slides up. Now this knight is pinned to the king over here. Pawn kicks the bishop out. But Joe Rall can just take a bishop here. Smack just hung his bishop. Hold on. Whoa. Wait a second. So the bishop is attacked here, and now the knight is attacked. Pawn takes pawn. Now this is being attacked. This is being attacked. Bishop slides out of the way, hitting the queen. Okay. And now the knight's just hanging. Now you just win the knight and you're just winning the game. But Smack instead plays bishop b5, continuing to apply pressure in other ways. You can move the knight out safely, but instead of that, Joe Rall just counterattacks the bishop. Now the bishop and the knight are both hanging. And Smack is just going to completely ignore both options. He's not going to protect his bishop. He's not going to take the knight. He's just going to play knight c3. Takes, hitting the queen. Okay. Queen just slides over. And now if you take my knight, I take your knight. Joe Rall's just winning. Queen comes over here. Rook comes out, defended by the knight, removing the queen, and Smack blunders his queen. On move 14, blunders the queen, and Joe Rall misses it. He misses it and takes with his queen. Neither player even noticed this, that no one had any expressions that were wild or anything on coverage, that just missed that there was a hanging queen. Okay, I mean, sure, game is just completely equal. Out of all these hanging pieces, we emerge from this wild position and it's just totally equal. I mean, both players have 6 pawns, bishops and knights, the same 2 rooks. Okay, knight jumps in. It's not hanging because we have recaptures there, takes, still equal game, but these pawns are a little bit weaker than white's pawns. Black is still at a slight advantage according to the computer. Black, of course, has this file. It can double up. They can take advantage here of the file. And now knight jumps back to f7. Joe Roll here plays rook e4. What Joe Roll should have done was play a rook f6, which is kind of trapping the knight. The knight really doesn't have too many good squares to move to. If the knight simply takes this pawn, you now have rook e4, winning the knight here. If knight goes here, yes, you have g4, which is hitting the knight and the pawn here, and now you're going to start ripping out the pawns from white's position. So instead we have check, king scoots over a little bit, knight. Oh, K-Smack plays knight d6, but that hangs the knight in 2 different ways. And so Joe Roll takes rook c1, checking the black king. King slides over, trying to kick the rook out of the position. Rook slides over here, taking full control of this file. King slides over this rook, just not participating in this game at all. So not only is black up a piece, black's effectively up 2 pieces. Bishop over, really trying to get in rook d1, and it's able to happen. Honestly, you probably just need to play a move like moving the king up, because you're going to lose your rook if you take. And Smack takes. Smack takes and loses both his rooks, and king g2, and now pieces are going to start getting gobbled. The pawns are going to start falling off the board. Black has a couple pawns that are getting very strong. You also have a 2-on-1 over here. You have an extra knight and an extra rook. Joe Roll is not going to go out without a fight. Joe Roll is going to try to pose as many complications as he can. Takes, but the pawns are going to get gobbled, and Smack's going to throw away his bishop. Smack has a couple pawns left. His other pawns are going to get eaten too. We have a queen promoted. Joe Roll's in check. Smack is a queen, which is swiftly removed from the board. Now it's just a king. A king against rook, knight, bishop, and a pawn. And let me tell you, if Joe Roll didn't have this pawn here, I don't know if he'd be able to win. I don't know if he knows how to checkmate with like rook and king, or with these conjunction of pieces. I don't actually know if Joe Roll will be able to do that. If he didn't have this pawn, this might be a stalemate. But okay, we have a queen that's incoming, and of course Joe Roll is going to make a queen, end the game quickly, and Joe Roll makes a rook. Joe Roll makes a rook. He told me after this game that he was nervous he would stalemate if he made a queen, even though the queen would have came into the game with check. He was too nervous to make a queen. And now Joe Roll has to figure out how to stalemate with rook, knight, and bishop. And if you're at a high enough rating, of course, it's very easy to do this. You could literally throw these 2 pieces away and just do it with the 2 rooks. It's very easy. You could even checkmate with a rook and a king probably, but I mean, this player is rated under 800. He like, just watch what happens. So king goes to the center, bishop comes back, just shuffling some pieces around. Joe Roll trying to figure out what to do here. This king is just circling around. At any point, this could just be a stalemate. You have to be very careful. King comes up, knight comes up, rook comes over, rook comes down, king comes down, bishop comes over. Like, oh my, we're on move 61. Joe Roll has under 2 minutes on the clock. He's trying his best to get a checkmate here. By the way, it's mate in 3 at pretty much any given time. I mean, all you can just like go rook over and just like, just ladder. It's just like mate in 3. So rook over, king comes over, rook comes down, king comes over. Okay, actually he does get a mate in 3 here. So Joe Roll is successful. 2 games to Joe Roll versus 1 game for Smack. Game number 4. Joe Roll is up a game here. Joe Roll playing white, Smack playing black. We have pawn e5, kicking out the knight, bishop pinning the knight, and the knight is just hanging. The knight just been kind of chilling, hanging for a couple moves for Smack, and Joe finally decides to take it. Pawn takes, kick the bishop back, and rook g8. Rook g8, you do have the open file here, which is nice for black, but you are down a piece. You are down a piece, it's +4 for white. Queen to e2, preventing the rook from taking here. Queen comes over, putting more pressure on the knight here. Castles, and now... What is this? Bishop takes, choosing not to recapture here, but instead Joe is taking the pawn on h7. Now, what is happening here? This is being hit. This is being hit. Smack decides to take on a2, ignoring both things, just going for a huge attack. Joe Roll takes here on c3, and now queen comes in for a check. And you just have to move this rook, right? The rook's just hanging. This rook's just hanging. So rook h8. And instead of retreating the bishop, queen d3, defending the bishop through this diagonal, but also helping support some of the pawns. Okay, makes sense. Pawn comes out, and okay, maybe we see K-Smack's idea here. K-Smack maybe doesn't know the way forward. I would have maybe considered a move like c5 here, trying to rip open the position would have been totally fine. Or like maybe bringing the queen like around here, potentially trying to attack on the other side of the board. K-Smack here is either maybe trying to bring the rook in or trying to play for this pass pawn, which is pretty good idea. Okay, that's reasonable. Knight comes out, pawn comes forward. This position, however, is totally winning for white. It's totally winning for white if you just take this pawn, and now where is this rook going? The pieces are going to get in. You're going to be able to lock away this bishop at some point and just get through here. Like you're going to be able to get g4. This is scary for black if white can play this correctly. But so we're talking about 2 700s here. White's not going to play this perfectly. We have knight to f4. Bishop goes back. Now, if you take this bishop here, this is crushing for white. Takes, and now you could bring in the queen too. And oh my God, this is just brutal for black. Black's position is getting shredded apart. But instead of that, Joe Rawl, instead of taking, Joe Rawl takes the pawn that he should have taken several moves ago, attacking the rook, but the queen is hanging. K-Smack wins a queen. K-Smack is just up a queen. Joe Rawl wins the rook back. But okay. And the resulting position, K-Smack just on a bishop and a rook. So the resulting position is Smack has a queen for 2 bishops and a rook, but Smack also has an extra pawn, and that extra pawn is also a pass pawn. So pretty close in terms of material. Computer likes black's position a lot better. Let's see how the players find a path forward. We have check, we have king was over, and just pushing this pawn. Trying to play for this pass pawn here, gobbling a little bit of white's material. White's material looking a little passive on this H file, right? The bishops, the knight, the pieces aren't really in the game. Look at how much of the material for white, over half of white's pieces are on the H file, just kind of sitting on the sidelines. But okay, pawn's coming forward. And this is just a winning game plan for black. There's not too much white can do here about this. Promoting on A1 is just basically unstoppable. At the very least, you're going to win a rook as black. So knight comes here, check. Knight comes here. You can just take this if you want to. It's totally a free knight. Or you just move the king over. Spike just moves the king over. Rook slides over. And now you probably just want to play something like queen here. Just promote. This also comes with check. The game is over. We see queen d2, which is not as accurate, but okay. And now Smack promotes, but it's not as good because you're just trading rook and pawn for a rook here. So you're actually kind of losing in this trade. You lost one of your most valuable assets, but you still have another pass pawn. So it's still winning for black. It's still winning for black unless K-Smack plays exactly b5 now, because there's this incredible rook a7 check, and it's actually mate for white in 4 moves. King d8, bishop here, king comes over, knight, check, king, rook takes f7. Smack just played into mate in 4, but no shot Joe Rawl sees that. He just moves the knight back, and the game continues. Queen takes the pawn in the center, and now he sees it, but it's too late because the queen covers this square, and it just takes. K-Smack is just up. It's plus 10. It's plus 10 in this position, and although Joe Rawl is able to gobble a couple pawns, it's looking so bad. Smack has 3 passed pawns that are so close to the end of the board here. Okay, but Smack has to figure out his game plan here. Smack has to figure out how to safely get these pawns down. You know, if you just push them up kind of randomly, the bishops might be able to just gobble them up, so you have to play a little carefully. We're going to see the pieces shuffle around. Bishop's going to come defend, but the queen will win a piece here. Queen's going to gobble up that knight. Bishop's going to win a couple pawns, and we have 1 pawn left for Smack. Now, Smack is still completely destroying in this position, but Smack has to figure a way out to get this pawn up and to try and remove these bishops from preventing the pawn from getting up. So queen over, we trade a knight for a bishop. This is completely dominating for K-Smack still. Pawn c4, king d4, helping to try to prevent the pawn from promoting. Check, and now K-Smack doesn't actually know what to do. K-Smack is unsure of how to safely get this pawn moving, so he brings the king up. And this is where things start getting a little bit sketchy. Joe Rall starts pushing his pawns. He says, hey, if I'm going to lose, at least I should try to play for a stalemate, maybe try to play for a draw, chuck these pawns forward, make my opponent take them, see what I can do, see if I can just be tricky and just play for what I can. Just push the pawns. Just push the pawns. You know, just choo-choo, pawns are coming. Check, but pawns are okay, Joe Rall. Pawn on h7. It's going to promote in one move. Not only that, but it's going to promote and be protected by the bishop. So you don't even have queen h5 or just losing. Queen h5 is just losing because you make a queen. So instead you have to do some sort of a little dance here. Something like queen b7, and then you have to like win the bishop with a check and then cover the promotion square. It's not super hard to find, but K-Smack has to find that, and Smack plays queen h5. Smack plays the move you can't make here, and he's forced to trade his queen for white's queen, and now Joe Rall is winning. Joe Rall wins the other pawn. The pawns are going to go up, but the game is over. He makes a queen. And Joe Rall is trying to shuffle around and get a checkmate over here. Joe Rall's not too sure how to get a mate. He might be just earning some time on the clock. He's shuffling. All right, he's trying to get a checkmate. He's trying his best here, and he finally gets a mate on b6 with the queen. And Joe Rall is up 3-1 against K-Smack. Game 5. Smack needs to win 3 in a row in order to win. This is game number 5. Smack is playing on white, and Joe Rall is playing on black. Joe Rall playing a caro defense here. E5 in the center. Queen h5 early coming out from Smack. Now Smack is coming for blood in this game. Smack is just going back into his ways. He's playing very aggressively. He just wants to get into his opponent's face. Smack is bringing his queen out early, and he's trying to play for something here. He doesn't care if he's going to lose his pawn in the center. He just wants to go crazy. I mean, and you actually can't take this pawn in the center, obviously, because that'll just hang mate in one, of course. So you guys may not have seen that. But anyways, knight comes out here. Queen wins the pawn in the center. This is very scary. It is also check. On the king, you can easily just play like bishop b7, totally solid here. That's exactly what Joe Rall does. Pawn takes pawn, ripping the center open, hitting the queen here with the knight is, kicking the queen out. Queen slides over to g5. Okay, now queen is threatening this pawn. And you can castle here. Castling here is a totally reasonable move, but Joe Rall is scared. He plays rook g7. This king is stuck here right now. Oh no. Knight comes out to help get into the game. Pawn takes pawn, castles. This pawn is looking a little loose in the center. The king is in the center. This king needs to be here. This king should have been here. The rook should have been over here. Knight comes out. Queen now captures in the center because the knight was the defender of that pawn, and we're eyeballing this. And Joe Rall in this position plays a6 of everything he could have played. Bringing out the queen, moving a knight, moving this knight. This knight is even just hanging. He plays a6 and Smack just wins. It's move 11. That is game 5. And Smack is now back in the match. 2 points Smack, 3 points Joe Rall. Let's take a look at game 6. Game 6 was spicy too. My God. We have Joe Rall in white. Smack is on the black pieces. D4, D5, and now we see a London system from Joe Rall, which is the system that Joe Rall is most experienced with. It's what he played the most during this tournament. Smack just gives up a pawn early. Smack just throws away his pawn and questions where the bishop's going to go. The bishop's going to retreat just to back to where it was. All right. Joe Rall's up a pawn. Bishop out. Now Joe Rall's going to kick Smack's bishop out, and we have this nice typical London structure that you usually see with the triangle in the center. F5, kind of a weird move that doesn't really do anything, but whatever. And as early as move 8, Joe Rall blunders his bishop. This bishop is defended by the queen, but this bishop, even though it is defended by the queen, also is being captured by a pawn. And you could just take. This is a pawn, and you just play bishop here, and it's just good for black. But Smack doesn't take it. Instead plays bishop d7, giving Joe a chance to move the bishop out of the way. Okay, kicking the queen out. Now Smack's queen is going to come out along the long diagonal, and Smack again is going to start trying to put pressure on Joe Rall. Maybe he'll go after this pawn, or maybe, who knows? I don't know what he'll do. This pawn, by the way, just able to be taken. Just kind of a hanging pawn. It's only defended by the bishop. You could just win a pawn there. Decides not to. G3. Okay. Queen slides over. Bishop B5. Knight comes out. Knight comes out. Okay. Queen F3. This queen's starting to get in a little bit. I don't know how much I like that. The rook is being a little threatened. You kind of just have to move the rook over at this point or castle. And Joe Roll castles. By the way, this position's +5 for Joe Roll. Joe Roll probably is feeling phenomenal here. He has a great position. His pieces are active. He has kind of this fortification around his entire position. He's up a game and he only needs to win one more to win this entire series. Position's great. He's just playing great chess here. Pawn F4 and bishop takes on G7. So bishop takes this pawn. Rook slides over. And knight takes, and this is a step in the wrong direction for Joe Roll because Joe Roll is losing his bishop. His bishop came in to win a pawn, but now the rook took it. And the evaluation still likes white's position because even though white is down a full piece, white's positionally is just so solid and is up 3 pawns also. So you're up 3 pawns for the piece and your position is better. Your king is safer. Your pieces are more active. Notice how these pieces kind of are just not really doing too much. So game goes on, bishop comes out, and you could actually force a repetition here. This is a repetition. So at the very least, if Joe Roll was nervous here, Joe Roll could just take a draw. But okay, Joe Roll plays bishop a5, knight slides out, and now there's a queen trade. And just remember, when more pieces are traded, the player with the extra piece will start to have an advantage in most situations over the player with the 3 extra pawns. So the 3 extra pawns are going to be less impactful than the extra piece as more pieces get traded. You'll see that right here. Position is now only +1 for Joe Roll. Okay. Pawn comes out, bishop comes out, knight slides back, knight slides up, but this piece was hanging. Smack could have won another piece and it would have been dominating, but he missed it. The bishop was hanging, and instead he plays knight e6. Okay, knight d2, and the bishop can still take the knight. It's hanging again. It's just hanging again. And he now takes it. Now K-Smack is dominating. This is such a good position. He's up 2 pieces. Castle, take the pawn in the center, coming out with the bishop, the knight, the pawn. Pieces are going to start getting traded. Pawns are going to get traded. And Joe Roll's like, okay, I don't want to trade any more pieces. Trying to just hold the position together with the knight here. This is just crushing for Smack. Look at how many pieces Smack has. But also, Joe Roll has 7 pawns here against the 3 that Smack has. So it's not nothing. All right. Pawn a4, bishop comes in, so we got a little bit of a pawn capture here. We have a trade. Smack does hang a bishop, and to his credit, Joe Roll does pick up a bishop here, so not doing as bad as initially. And now the position's starting to get better for white again, because this knight, even though black has an extra knight, the knight's just not doing anything. And look at, again, how many pawns white has. White just has 6 pawns, black has 2. So, okay, white has some game here. Pawn b6. Okay, something's happening for Joe Roll. But rook g8, and now Smack is threatening something devastating. Smack is threatening to infiltrate, and this is very scary. Joe Roll here needs to play a move like f3. It's still good for black, but f3, at least you're not getting mated, and Joe Roll doesn't even take the pawn or move the knight, or Joe Roll plays rook e2, and K-Smack wins. It's checkmate on G1. It's 3 games to 3 games. We're going to game 7 in the series. This last game will determine who moves to the finals in the Pog Legends Chess Tournament. Oh my God. What is this? Look at the checkmate. What? Why rook e2 out of everything? So it's the final game between these 2 players. 3 points for Joe Roll, 3 points for K-Smack. Smack is going to be in white for the final game. Joe's going to be black. We have e4, e5, and let's see what the players decide to play for the final match. Pretty standard stuff happening so far. And K-Smack, again, coming out with an early queen attack. This is typical K-Smack style. Joe Roll is going to question where the queen's going to go, not falling for the wayward queen attack. Of course, this pawn is not hanging because the knight is defending. This is exactly how you want to play when white brings their queen out early against you, or even if black brings their queen out early against you. And on move 4, K-Smack plays, I don't even know what to say about this move. Queen takes on e5. Smack blunders his queen on the 4th turn of the final game to qualify for the finals. And not only that, he throws away his bishop. Did K-Smack chug 6 beers before this final game? Did K-Smack get run over by a school bus? Did he just get into like a fight with his girlfriend? Like, what is happening? He just threw 2 pieces away. It is minus 16. Now, to his credit, okay, Smack wins back a knight here. Still down a full queen, but this is tough. Bishop c5. Joe Rawls going to mobilize his pieces. He's going to get his pieces to a good spot, pick up another pawn. Now he's going to bring his queen out. Now only one player has a queen, and Joe Rawls not messing around. There is looming pressure on this pawn, and Joe Rawls going to come in. He knows what he's doing. King slides over. King castles. All right. Questioning where the bishop's going to go. Developing a piece here. I would have maybe preferred to bring the knight here, but that's okay. You don't want to maybe trade because you're down a piece. I understand. And now K-Smack has the opportunity to play rook h1, trapping the queen. And maybe even winning it back, he'll still be down a rook, but maybe it's winnable. The only way to get out of this is the kind of tough to find bishop e3 check, sacrificing your bishop. And now queen takes on g2. At least Smack could try to play this for something here. But Smack doesn't see this idea. Instead, he just brings the knight out. The king comes up. We have a check, and now the pieces are just going to get lost here. Joe Rawls is just playing cleanup crew. Doesn't even take the knight, just goes for more checks. But eventually, Joe Rawls is going to bring his other pieces in and just trade everything. He's going to take all the rest of the pieces here. There's 2 knights left for white. Joe Rawls can sacrifice here. Come in with the queen, come in with the rook, and that's game 7. That might be the most anticlimactic of all the games we had so far. Every other game was a wild roller coaster. Joe Rawls wins. Joe Rawls wins the match. He's moving on to the finals. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to Jack Penguin. The 2 of them will be facing off this Tuesday on twitch.tv. Come watch it live. If you like this video, subscribe on YouTube if you want to see similar content. There's going to be videos here that'll pop up on the screen. Yeah, click on those. There's other cool chess stuff going on YouTube that we made. It's fun. Go watch it. Okay, thanks. Yeah. Take care, guys. That's the recap.